There is an unwritten rule in the world of comedy. If you build your throne on the humiliation of others, you better make sure your own armor is bulletproof. For years, Akash Singh was the executioner. As the co-host of the Flagrant podcast, he carved out a lucrative niche by mercilessly roasting couples in the audience. He would dissect their body language, mock their dynamics, and expose their insecurities for millions of views. He was the alpha in the room, the guy who saw through everyone else's lies. But the internet loves a hypocrite, and right now it is feasting on the realization that the man who made a career out of spotting red flags in strangers was colorblind to the crimson banners waving in his own living room. Akash has gone from the predator to the prey, labeled Kakash, a simp, and a cash machine, by the very audience he used to command. But this isn't just a story about a bad marriage, it's a case study on what happens when a public persona collides with a private reality that was never meant to be seen. The comedian who laughed at everyone else is now begging us to believe that his nightmare is actually a fairy tale. To understand the severity of the crash, you have to understand the height of the pedestal. Akash didn't just present his marriage as happy, he presented it as holy. He sold a very specific narrative to his audience, that he, the self-proclaimed ugly guy, won the lottery with a traditional woman. For years, he told the world that his wife, Jasleen, was a unicorn. He bragged about her purity. He told stories about how they connected deeply because she, like him, was supposedly inexperienced. He painted a picture of a woman so virtuous that she didn't even understand modern dating. This narrative was the shield he used to deflect any criticism. He was the lucky grinder who worked his way up from open mics in Texas to sold-out theaters, and she was the loyal, innocent prize waiting at the finish line. He convinced his fans, and perhaps himself, that she loved him for his soul, not his status. He told heartwarming stories about how she stuck by him when he was dead broke, sleeping on hardwood floors in New York City. It was the perfect origin story. But as we've learned, if a story sounds too perfect, it's usually because crucial chapters have been ripped out. And unfortunately for Akash, his wife just pasted those chapters back in publicly and in 4K resolution. The collapse began with a rivalry. For years, Akash had feuded with Myron Gaines of the Fresh and Fit podcast. They were ideological opposites. Akash mocked Myron for his rigid red pill views on women, famously roasting him to his face for refusing to date black women. Akash took the moral high ground, positioning himself as the guy who respects women, contrasting Myron's toxicity with his own wholesome marriage. But in this digital war, Myron was playing the long game. And on November 7th, he didn't fire a shot. He simply held up a mirror. Myron tweeted a single link to a podcast appearance by Akash's wife, Jasleen. It was a clip that shattered the innocent, traditional wife mythology in seconds. In the footage, the woman Akash claimed was a paragon of virtue casually reminisced about her college days. She wasn't talking about studying or struggle. She was bragging about popping her storks and living her best life in frat houses. She explicitly mentioned having a roster of guys she would rotate through. The math didn't add up. The timeline didn't fit. The virgin narrative Akash had sold to his fans evaporated the moment she used the word roster. The internet didn't just laugh, they went forensic. They realized that while Akash was on stage making fun of unsuspecting boyfriends, his own wife was on podcasts boasting about a past that sounded nothing like the version Akash had sworn was true. Once the dam broke, the flood of evidence was overwhelming. The internet began digging, and what they found wasn't just contradictory, it was humiliating. It started with the finances. In another clip, Jasleen starkly declared, "His money is our money, and my money is my money." It was a statement so cold and transactional that it immediately slapped the gold digger label onto her forehead, but it got worse. The most damaging footage wasn't about money, it was about desire. A video resurfaced where Jasleen is discussing her own sister's husband. She gushes about his physique, saying his body goes crazy, and explicitly states she is trying to organize an orgy just to get involved with him. She even speculates on his size in graphic detail. Imagine being Akash. You are a successful comedian. You provide the lifestyle, you defend her honor, and you have to watch a clip of your wife publicly fantasizing about your brother-in-law while the entire internet calls you the Indian Will Smith. The viewers then turned their attention to their physical chemistry, or the lack thereof. Compilations flooded social media showing Jasleen dodging Akash's kisses. In elevators, at their vow renewal, on vacations. Every time he leans in for affection, she recoils, turns her head, or checks her reflection in the mirror. She later tried to explain this away as being overstimulated by physical touch, claiming it dysregulates her nervous system. Yet, the internet was quick to point out that she never seemed dysregulated when talking about her frat house roster or her brother-in-law's anatomy. When the noise became too loud to ignore, Akash tried to put out the fire, but instead of water, he used gasoline. He tried to rewrite history. During a recent stand-up set, which attendees described as more of a therapy session than a comedy show, Akash told a tearful story about 2018. He claimed that when he was making only $4,000 a year, and they were homeless, sleeping on a jacket on the floor, she held him and loved him. He used this story to prove she wasn't a gold digger. But the internet never forgets. Almost immediately, sleuths found an old clip of Jasleen telling her version of that same year, and her memory was very different. She didn't describe a romantic struggle. She described resentment. She admitted that she considered leaving him because he couldn't provide. She talked about the toxicity of that period, stating clearly, "I don't know if I can be in a relationship with this person." Akash remembers a ride or die romance. Jasleen remembers a failed investment she almost liquidated. The juxtaposition of these two stories exposed the saddest reality of all. Akash isn't just lying to his audience, he is lying to himself. He is restructuring his own memories to cope with the fact that the woman he idolizes views him as a utility. So, where does this leave him? The damage to his personal life is severe, but the damage to his career might be fatal. Akash Singh's entire comedic value proposition was confidence. He was the guy with the microphone, the one with the power. When he returns to the Flagrant podcast, he returns as a man stripped of that armor. How can he ever look a couple in the crowd and roast their relationship again? The moment he opens his mouth to mock a boyfriend for being weak, the entire room will be thinking the same thing. At least his wife actually likes him. He and his co-host, Andrew Schultz, attempted damage control. They brought Jasleen on the show to redefine terms, arguing that having a roster just meant dancing in heels. It was a desperate, semantic word salad that insulted the intelligence of their listeners. It showed that they are terrified. They know that once the audience starts laughing at the clown instead of with him, the show is over. Akash Singh wanted to be a king of comedy, but he forgot that a king is only as strong as his queen. He chose a partner based on an image that didn't exist, and now the reality is being broadcast on a loop for the world to see. He is currently trapped in a prison of his own making, forced to defend the indefensible while the internet archives every flinch, every contradiction, and every humiliation. If you want to see more deep dives into the psychology of online collapse, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. The internet writes the harshest tragedies, and we are just here to read the script.